But yeah, I mean, what we've got to remember, this lad, he is unique. He was never a fullback as a kid. He's ended up going there because of his footballing ability.
Was he a midfielder?
He was a midfield player, and a special midfield player coming through. But we know now the fullback position has evolved, but you've still got to be able to defend. But he's a playmaker from fullback. That's what he is. He's not going to completely change that. He's never going to be the best defender in the world, but he can improve and get better. And that's what he did tonight. And to be honest, I thought his interview was brilliant. The way he came, how he spoke. You know, really open, not wasn't scared in terms of saying that. It is slightly different with the national team, the things that he's asked to do. But yeah, and we shouldn't forget how young he is and what he's actually already achieved in the game. I mean, if he doesn't do another thing in the game, which he will, he's still won every trophy he can win. You know, at club level. I'm sure he has off the top of my head yet. So, I mean, he's achieved an awful lot for such a young player. There's so much there still for him to improve, but he is an absolute special talent.
You're judging him, you say on the Monday Night Club, by slightly different standards, but are there constants even from the
Monday
sort of
Night
modern...
Football.
What did I say?
We're on Sky. I know you work for a few different organisations, but we're on Sky tonight.
Steady, I'm not Micah. But when you talk on Monday Night Football about Trent Alexander-Arnold...
when those kids come on Monday, we'll be out of it.
So will I. So on Monday Night Football, when you talked about Trent Alexander-Arnold, it could be taken what? It could be taken as real criticism, or it could be taken as advice from somebody who's played in that position and won every trophy in that position as well. So are there constants between an old school fullback, that's where I'm putting you, and a modern fullback like Trent Alexander-Arnold?
The demands placed upon him as a fullback are far greater than ever placed upon me in terms of the expectations of what he's got to deliver going forward, but the expectations that he's equally got to be a good defender. And I have to say, the demands going forward are completely different. I could concentrate more on my defensive work and support the attack. He's got to be the attack for Liverpool Football Club at the top of the league, and has been for 4 or 5 years with Robertson. You know, I know that they've had Salah, Mane and Firmino have been outstanding, but the creation of goals has come from those two fullbacks, and what they've delivered is absolutely out of this world. Andy Robertson, I think this week's become the best ever in terms of assists, so it's unbelievable. I couldn't speak more highly about them in terms of what they've done, but I have said for 2 or 3 years there will come a point with Trent Alexander-Arnold whereby if he doesn't just attend to his defensive work, it will start to harm him. And look, I think Kieran Trippier is a really good fullback, but I think Trent Alexander-Arnold watching Kieran Trippier be selected in front of him in a World Cup game will have hit home. It'll have hit home. And, you know, people will say, well, is that Gareth Southgate because he's more pragmatic and he wants... No, I think generally if a team's not got as much possession, if a team's not in as good a form, like Liverpool haven't been maybe in parts of this season, it will then be highlighted more, your defensive mistakes, and that will happen during his career where he'll be playing for Liverpool or for England when they're not in as dominant a form, and he's going to have to be expected to defend better. And I think it's about being more serious about your defending, and tonight you've seen him there getting low and looking like he's actually, he's really sort of bright in his work and his feet work. And I said that on the Monday Night Football. I wasn't a good full-back defender. I was a centre-back. I couldn't defend as a full-back when I first started, but I was practising my footwork every single day. And he was talking there about crossing his feet over. I know exactly what he's talking about. It's that movement of doing that all the time and being low, rather than doing this where you're switching your legs and all of a sudden...
Go on.
We couldn't see you, and we're going to put the Strictly music behind you.
It's that movement of low to the ground. It's like...
You sure that was on a football pitch?
It's that all the time. It's that, so you can go forward, but you can go back. You can go forward, you can go back. But if you're upright, you cannot. You're upright. You cannot move. You just.
So, did you learn that at the cliff or the training ground or the hacienda?
I learned it on the Monday Night Football Club. The Monday Night Club.
And which partner do you want when you go on Strictly?
But honestly, it's that hip movement of really being low and to pounce forward and get back and pounce forward and get. And he's never low.
Stop going on the pitch
tonight,
now. That's enough.
Sorry, I'm getting to. But tonight he's obviously been doing that. And I'll repeat what I said before. We cannot. With great respect to Kieran Trippier, we shouldn't be watching such a unique talent like Trent Alexander-Arnold on a bench in a World Cup, looking at players who have got less talent than him, even though we've got great fullbacks, because we need to make sure we get our most talented player. I'm gone.
It's a role that requires a lot of energy. Cara.
we both played fullback, and he was almost the opposite to Trent in that you were a great defender who improved his attack and play as he went forward. I think I was a decent defender as fullback, but I never improved my attack and play. I never got to a stage where I was classed as a top fullback because my attack and play wasn't good enough. So what Trent will always have is the attacking side of it will always be 9 out of 10. He's just got to improve the defender. It doesn't have to become 9 out of 10 because very few... Only Maldini's 9 out of 10 of both. Even like your Cafus and your Carlos, sometimes you might question them defensively, but he just needs to get to 6, 7 out of 10 most weeks defensively, and that's why he got man of the match tonight, because of his defensive work and because he was so sound defensively.
And there are fullbacks like Cafu, like Roberto Carlos, who were unbelievable attacking fullbacks, but then could do that defensive bit, so it can be done, and we know that he can get to that level, Trent Alexander-Arnold. And you're right, I came off a football pitch and never measured myself by the contribution to the attack. I was happy, of course, if I got an assist or if I played a nice pass forward for the help with a goal, but I was more concerned about the fact, did I snuff out the danger down my side? Did me, Rio Ferdinand would say to me, nothing down our side, and that was my focus from minute 1 to minute 90. And then when we were on the ball, I'd go forward and I'd support the attack and I'd overlap and I'd do things, but I was never measuring my performance by these things. I was measuring my performance by my defensive work. The player, he couldn't do that. Jurgen Klopp, Pep Guardiola, the greatest managers in the world at this moment in time are measuring their fullbacks by their contribution in build-up play, in attack, in assists, in goals, in many different ways than I was measured by my manager. So for me, I think that ultimately they're under more pressure, they're asked more of, they're demanded more of, and it's a far more difficult game. And add to that, he's being asked to play up near his halfway line with, to be fair, 40 yards in behind him. Honestly, we would feel very uncomfortable. The demands upon them as defenders are incredible.
It'd be really interesting if when he came off the pitch and he got told he was man of the match, whether he was actually surprised, because he's got man of the match because of his defensive role tonight. But I totally agree with him. Us going into games mentally be thinking, get to the full-back, stop and crossing it, and you'll come off thinking, I did that, and that's why I've had a good game. But it'd be interesting. I think Trent would think, and maybe a lot of full-backs do now, I've only had a good game. A good game for him is actually getting forward, getting crosses in. And he might think he never did that. So he might have been actually surprised getting the man of the match, because he doesn't go into games maybe with the way we thought about the game. There's no right or wrong, just different ways of playing the position.
I watch him very closely every time I play. I was watching him with you tonight. And I think there was only one positional error that I saw during the game that he made, and that was when Dewsbury-Hall got the header in. And he was just maybe a little bit out looking at Harvey Barnes. But he was absolutely fantastic tonight. And I do want to say, the interviews from Van Dijk and from Trent Alexander-Arnold were fantastic in terms of their honesty about Liverpool's performance, because we sometimes get players coming out and not telling about the fact that how disappointed they are with how they played. So well done to them for that, because I think it's rare that we see that.